Hi, so this next section is going to be about some of the other kinds of acting techniques other than Stanislavski, though related. So, a lot of actors in performance train across disciplines. They might actually train in Tai Chi, they might train in what's called Alexander technique, they might train in improvisation, or they might train in Commedia dell'arte. Those techniques that's actually from the Renaissance, or they might train also in circus arts or even in mime. So all of these are basically skills and add to what an actor can do physically, vocally, and psychologically. But I want to concentrate on two particular artists who developed both techniques as well as what I would say an philosophical approach to acting. So the first person I want to talk about is Joseph Chaikin. So Joseph Chaikin was an actor on Broadway, off Broadway in the 40s and 50s, and in the 1960s he brought together a group of actors, and if you can imagine the 1960s, a sort of approach was definitely against the guard, in that these actors who came together were interested in experimenting and developing an ensemble. And so some of the ideas behind Joseph Chaikin's work was that the actor needed to be more open. He was interested in the ensemble, the open theater, was interested in the actor's body movement, voice, and everything that could bring to performance that wasn't text-based, or not putting the text first, but putting the performer first. And in fact, Joseph Chaikin's book is called The Presence of the Actor. So in this book, he talks about how an actor can stay open, be open, how an actor is present in the moment, how an actor can be authentic in terms of being real in the moment, performing and not putting on a sort of shellac of character. And then he was interested in exploring the internal territory of what that means emotionally for the actor. So a lot of the both exercises but also works were developed out of nonverbal improvisation. And I'll post a couple of clips that illustrate this. One is from, I'm not sure what year, 1972 production of The Serpent, one of the pieces that the Open Theater was most famous for. And one of the company members, you may recognize his name, Sam Shepard, came out of the Open Theater, but a number of other really sort of amazing actors. So I'm going to go ahead and read this quote, but I will put it up in terms of, it'll be a slide in this lecture. And this is from Joseph Chaikin's book, The Presence of the Actor. All prepared systems fail. They fail when they are applied, except as examples of a process which was significant at some time for someone of some group. Process is dynamic. It's the evolution that takes place during work. Systems are recorded as ground plans, not to be followed any more than rules of courtship can be followed. We can get clues from others, but our own culture and sensibility and aesthetic will lead us into a totally new kind of expression, unless we simply imitate both the process and the findings of another. The aesthetic makes the system. So 1972, that was Joseph Chaikin. So you can see how dissatisfied with this idea of a system of acting, that really a system is just a ground plan or a blueprint of something that you can follow, but it's not the actual thing, right? The presence is the actor, him or herself. And then one more quote from The Presence of the Actor, 1972. The actor has to allow himself, has to be available to himself, has to be able to discover and call on himself, and he also has to direct himself and hide his own process. Tension directs him to particular choices, limiting possibilities and concealing alternatives. You can't understand simply by trying, but nor can you not try to understand. In this sense, trying is a form of tension. So Joseph Chaikin's really sort of philosophically unpacking what acting is about. And hopefully you can see that in the two clips that I'm going to show you. One clip is a documentary that was made about Joseph Chaikin, and then another clip is from that production of The Serpent that I was talking about. Okay, so the next technique that I want to talk about is Michael Chekhov technique. So we're sort of going back in time because Chekhov really came out of the Moscow art theater in the early 20th century, but really influenced a lot of Hollywood actors through the 1950s. Even today, his techniques have been taken up. And so what's interesting about Michael Chekhov is that he was dissatisfied with Stanislavski's system and was interested in, again, the presence of the actor, him or herself. And so a lot of Chekhov's techniques are exercises to create an openness that are based in improvisation, but also to connect to ensemble. So again, we have this idea of that there's something about Stanislavski's system that's actually not helping create ensemble, or at least for both Chekhov and Chaikin, they wanted to explore other avenues for connecting performers in the same space, in the same time, and in the same production. So Chekhov was interested in freeing the actor through improvisation, but also this idea of co-creation and collaboration. So many of the exercises have actors in a circle or moving around a space where they are listening and feeling and interpreting the motivations of each other. And so an example would be that you'd have a group of actors standing neutral in the space, and without any verbal cues, one person move at a time and then another person start moving when they feel that the other person has stopped moving. And so the idea is that no two people would ever be moving at the same time. So there's a lot of listening, feeling, anticipating, and just connecting. You can do this exercise with your eyes closed. Just have a couple people who can watch out and make sure that the actors don't bump into things or each other. But with the eyes closed, it really emphasizes and highlights how actors have other senses that a lot of times our Stanislavski or method training doesn't really emphasize our other senses that we can use as actors. And so Chekhov was interested in how can we connect with each other. So this is a quote from Michael Chekhov's book on the technique of acting. The dramatic art is a collective art, and therefore, however talented the actor may be, he will not be able to make full use of his ability to improvise if he isolates himself from the ensemble, his partners. So this was 1952. Chekhov wrote that. And so I'm going to share a couple of videos that illustrate how actors use Chekhov technique that are pretty interesting. So take a look at those. And then finally, I want to talk just briefly about acting and gender, because earlier in our textbook, it was emphasized about both Greek theater and Elizabethan theater that women were forbidden and banned, not allowed to perform. That was the same also for Roman theater. But kabuki theater, actually women performed prior to 1600s. The first performances were by women, but later they were outlawed. And then in some early Indian drama and also Chinese drama like Zaju, women performed. But in Elizabethan theater, men played all the parts and young men played the female roles. And so it wasn't until much later that women started appearing on the British stage and also appearing in parts that maybe were supposed to be for men. And so today we actually are experiencing a pretty interesting time when women are being cross-gender cast, and of course men are still playing women's roles also. We still have that tradition, but it's not outlawed, and we even have drag performances, trans performance, and other kinds of sort of crossing barriers that were at one time a sort of binary, and now that's not so clear. So I just thought I'd touch on that a little bit.